Hello everybody, today we're going to talk about while loops. So again, a loop is something that repeats a process over and over. There's two basic kinds of loop. There is a while loop and a for loop. A while loop it repeats until a condition is met, and a for loop will run for a certain amount of times. We'll talk about a for loop later, but today we're going to use while loops. If you haven't already got your scanner template, go ahead and add that. And then I'm going to call this class CreditLimit. We're going to evaluate a credit card, and the way we look at credit is we can make transactions up until our credit limit. So once we reach the limit, we cannot spend anymore. So based on a loop, we can loop transactions until we reach our limit. Okay, so the syntax for a while loop, we start out with the keyword while. It's going to look very similar to an if statement because we're going to be comparing a condition. And then this is what we would have here. So we would have a true or false condition, and then inside the loop just keep doing something over and over until this condition is true. We'll have to come back and actually put a condition here in just a minute, but let's start off with some of the basic stuff. So for our credit limit, what we want to do is ask for the credit limit. So we'll ask for enter the credit limit. We'll just say it's an integer. We'll call it the limit, and we'll look for the next int. So we have a question and an answer, and based on that information, we'll be having the credit limit. So it could be different for the different users. The next thing we want to do is have a variable called amount, and that's how much we've charged. So we're going to start off the transactions with 0. So we don't know, we haven't spent anything yet, essentially. So the condition that we want to check is if our amount is less than or equal to the limit. So if we have a $500 limit, then we can spend amounts of money. We can spend $10, we can spend $20, we can spend different amounts, but once the total amount is greater than the limit, then that's when we have to stop. Okay, so inside this loop, we're going to ask a question. We're going to ask what that amount should be equal to. So we're going to output a question, enter a transaction amount. Okay, and then we'll also need a question. We'll make a local variable called this amount, and we'll set it equal to the next integer that we type. Go ahead and get rid of this real quick. So we have this amount. What we want to do next is take the amount, and we want to add this amount to our amount. So again, our amount here is 0. This amount is going to be equal to whatever the answer to the question is, and we'll just continually add that up. We also want to have an output statement, so we'll do another system.out.println, and we'll say limit minus amount, and this is going to calculate how much money is left, plus the word remaining. So that's kind of a nice feature. It's going to go back and tell us that we have a certain amount left to spend. Alright, we will do one more print statement. Again, this is going to loop and ask a question. How much was the transaction amount? And then we'll get another transaction amount. And it's going to loop and loop and loop until we meet that. So the next thing we have to consider is once it's done, what should it say then? And that's where you might just use another print statement and say system.out.println the limit has been exceeded. So now it's a statement just letting us know that we're out of our limit, so we can't make any more additional charges. Okay, let's compile and check for errors. Looks like there are no errors, so let's go test it real quick. Run the credit limit main method and just select OK. So let's say the credit limit is $2,000. If we make a $200 transaction, and there's $1,800 remaining. And notice how it asks the question again. It says enter a transaction amount. Again, that's because we still have money left. So let's make a $500 transaction. Okay, so there's $1,300. Let's make it $1,000. So with 300 left, if we go and spend $500, that's going to be over our limit. So it's going to say that we don't have any money left and that the limit has been exceeded. Notice how the questions have stopped. There's not another enter the transaction amount, because what's happened is the loop has reached its spot where it's no longer true. So once that's the case, it stops the loop and just moves on with the rest of the process. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the code, and this is the complete code, so if you'd like to pause the screen and make any additions or make any changes, you can.